What's up, everyone? Got a little website I'm gonna be working on. It's called Astronaut Anatomy. So I saw a headline where NASA selects 15 astronauts out of 8,000 applicants. And I'm like, how do you even pick 15 people out of 8,000? Like, what makes those 15 different? So made a little website, and it only uses the astronauts from NASA selection groups. There are a lot more than 69 astronauts, but I only loaded a few groups in so that I could focus on getting the functionality going rather than adding all the data and then realizing, yeah, I don't care. And of the, I think there are 3 or 4 or 5 groups in here. So over 44,000 people at least have applied. So then, yeah, whatever. Let's quickly go to the site. So we have one cool little bar graph where you can filter by military status. So, okay, of the military only, we see that there's an overwhelming number of master's degrees and not very many PhDs. Okay, on the civilian side, we have a lot of PhDs and pretty much an equal amount of PhDs and master's level specializations. Okay, so beyond the graph, we have a table visualizer. We can see each group. So there's group 24, group 23, selected in 2021, group 22, selected in 2017, 18,000 people applied. I was not one of those people. And in each table, there's the name of the astronaut, how old they were, not currently, but when they were selected, the highest level of education they received. So Ben Bailey is, I believe his master's is in progress, but he had only earned a bachelor's by the time I checked this Wikipedia page. So what you'll find is people with bachelor's degrees are non-existent in the database. You need a master's at a minimum to become an astronaut, at least according to the data. But yeah, in education, you can see the history of degrees earned. So Lauren Edgar, selected at 40, got a bachelor's in earth sciences at Dartmouth. Got a master's in geology at Caltech, PhD in geology at Caltech. So yeah, Lauren is a beast. We have Cameron Jones. He went to, I don't know. Cameron Jones went to the same school I did, and it looks like Cameron got an bachelor's and master's in aerospace. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So now we know what the website is. What I want to focus on is clean up the code base to make it easier for my buddy to start working on the site. So my friend hit me up and said he's a full-time software engineer, he's a professional software engineer in Texas. He's like, hey man, I wanna, learn some new skills, pick up some stuff that I don't really work on at the job. I like your website, I like space. Can we work on this together? Can I work on it? So I'm like, yeah, sure, man. I'm pretty honored that you think my little data set visualizer would look nice on your resume. I am honored to be helpful. It's a pretty serious ask, like his resume. So I made a little plan. So right now, stay at the code base. You got all these little files. It's just, the stack is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I don't use Node. Just loads in the browser. Yeah, it just loads in the browser. Nothing crazy. So, a quick summary. You got index.html. That's how you use the site. Style sheet, styling. Yeah. Data.js, the astronaut data. You can read data.js. Yep, that's it. By the way, the project is open source. Go to my profile, Mr. Vivacious, astronaut-anatomy. Yep. But anyways, dataset helpers, some little APIs for the data, the astronaut data. Age.js is age-related helpers. Education.js, military.js, so specific data fields. Display summary is for this. I got a file that handles this. I got a file that handles this. So we got a couple things going on, and the functionality is kind of mixed and interspersed. So what we want to do right now is at least just simplify the data queries. So the goal is we have data.js, all astronaut data, and then data service.js. So rather than age, education, military, we just keep it all in data service. That way in the future, if we want to extract another field, like get a filter data set by PhDs or filter data set by people who went to the University of Illinois, we can just put that API in data service rather than, like, oh, should I put in education.js, and then what if the data structure of my JSON changes? Then I have to come back here and I have to look for it. And if we add a lot more files, then change a lot of code in a lot of places. It's just not extensible. The reason I went with a simple design to begin with is because I was just hoping to get a proof of concept going. So it was more important that I could work on the features rather than create a code base that was extensible and up to industry standard. However, now that my friend wants to help, I'd like to make that process as easy as possible for him to just focus on adding features and focus on just his creativity and what he sees as useful, rather than having to deal with plumbing and infrastructure. So that is the burden that I will take care of, because I'm excited to see what he comes up with, and hopefully the 20 kids in the world that want to become astronauts can use my site and be like, yeah, this was super helpful, or like, yeah, I already knew all this information. I don't know why this guy's working on this. So all right, let's get started. Okay, so we have age.js, which is just one function. Go through the data, give me an object with the average age of all the astronauts, as well as the average age per group. I'm gonna take all that. Go to dataservice.js, which used to be dataset helpers. Okay. Put that in there. I will go to age.js. Oh my god. Oh snap. Delete that. Wow, it looks cleaner already. Is that crazy? Alright, we'll keep going. Alright, just did the same for education.js, so we can delete that. However, we had two functions. Get degree counts, which it makes sense to put in our data service, but format degree counts. This is curious because I don't think we need to put this in our data service, and rather it calls our data API. So I may later have to create maybe a utilities or data formatter file, because this directly interacts with the data. This calls something that interacts with the data and does something with it. So it's a step above the data. It's a step above the API layer. So just something to think about as we keep going. All right. Next, let's change military. So similarly here we got get military counts. So that's the data. It's a data layer function. And again, we have format military counts. And of course, this made sense for my earlier purpose of just want a little summary, a chart, some tables. But now that we're trying to make everything more easier to work on and consolidate all the code, it's got to make some choices here. So yeah, something to think about. All right, I think we've reached a pretty good stopping point for this time. So today, the original problem was just make the code base more structured so that it's easier to work on and extend and add features and functionality, specifically for my friend. And we had a couple different files, each calling and interacting with the database, and you know, they can all just be in one place. So that's what we ended up doing. Took my data helpers file and renamed it to dataservice.js. Took the code from h.js, which was just get the averages of the astronauts, put that in here, and did the same thing for education, where we get the degrees of the astronauts, and military, where we get the military status of the astronauts. Put that all in one file, and now the index, you know, it ain't much, but looks a little better, because all of these files at a high level were calling directly to the database. So we've just taken all those API calls and put them in one file. Cool, check out my website. I'll put it in the link if you got any ideas. The website is open source. So cool.